Good night. So we have our first guest of the morning, Dr. Greg Smith from Northwestern University. I'm looking at his tag that says Emory, but he's from Northwestern University. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing this morning?
Very good.
Good.
I didn't stay out as late as some.
No, you did not. So Greg was really kind enough to he was slotted a 20-minute talk, and then was told pretty much when you got here, or very soon before, that we wanted him to do 45 minutes, and he was very accommodating and did an awesome job talking about his work. Why don't you, I guess, in a minute or two, give us a little snippet into your work, what you're studying?
Yeah. So unlike most of the people at this conference, I'm a virologist. And
exactly.
I did ask the question at the beginning of how many virologists in the audience. I got one hand up, which is one more than I expected. So I'm studying herpes virus, which is a neuroinvasive pathogen in humans. And one of the interesting hallmarks of this is that it's fairly benign. You know, some people get cold sores. A lot of people don't get anything. But in a few unfortunate people, it spreads it doesn't retain itself just in the peripheral nervous system, which is where it usually lives, but gets into the brain. And really nobody understands why that happens. And Jean-Laurent Casanova, who's not here, unfortunately, made some really important discoveries that there's genetic contributions from the host. And one of the things that can happen is patients that lack a gene for a protein called toll-like receptor 3, or TLR3, are more predisposed for the virus to get into the brain. And so with that knowledge, and now with the development of iPS technology, we can take skin cells from these patients, turn them into neurons, and study the process in culture. And it's the first time we've ever been able to look at this ability of the virus to get into the brain or be restricted from getting into the brain by looking at the CNS cell cultures. And it's amazing because when you culture the CNS neurons from a healthy person through the iPS lineage, you end up with cells that the virus can't infect, just like in a normal human, which is remarkable.
Now, Greg's being a little modest, but I think he gave one of the better talks I've ever seen, complete with herpes virus labeled with RFP, going up and down neurons, traveling.
Yeah, it was really
traveling
cool.
Up and down. It's
really
stuff
cool.
I've never seen before, and just a nice visualization of how the virus goes from your lip all the way up. Was it the trigeminal?
Trigeminal is typical, yeah.
Yeah, and hangs out in the base of the brain and waits until you get a little bit stressed out, and then makes its journey on the way back.
Move,
Yeah.
For the audience, I don't think a lot of people appreciate that these viruses just hang out. I think most people probably in the audience would say, with cold sores, they go away, they're gone. They realize it's still latent. But what that actually means, I don't think people understand.
I don't think a lot of people know on the street that's in your nervous system.
Yeah, it just lives in your nervous system. So you can talk about that a little bit, how these things can just kind of reactivate. They can just hang out in a neuron and live and live
They hang
and
out
live.
your whole life. Once you're infected, you have it for the rest of your life, and there's no cure for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the gift that keeps on
It
giving.
is the gift that keeps
That's
on
one of the
giving.
sayings. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And so, I mean, should people out there be scared that they have cold sores and that one day it's going to get to their brain and cause a massive problem?
Actually,
or?
if you've had a cold sore, it's probably a good sign that you're not going to have a more severe infection later in life.
Okay.
So it's really the people who haven't had it that don't know yet.
And they won't even know they had it. Herpes virus, right? If they can't see it.
I talked about at the beginning that looking at the age of this room, most of the people in this audience probably should have it. Just statistically speaking, it's probably about 60 to 70% of the people here have it. And most of the people that have a cold sore ever in their life is probably much lower. It's probably somewhere around 5% of the room.
Really?
Yeah, why is that? I don't understand that. Why somebody can, and sometimes people will go their whole adult life, and sometimes in like their 60s or 70s, it'll show up, and they're obviously not active. It's just been dormant.
Dormant.
Yeah.
Because when it's reactivating, it's often below clinical manifestation. So right now, one of us might have some herpes virus on our lip, and we don't even know it.
Really?
Yeah. And so the cold sore is the abnormality, because what that really reflects is a very hyper-immune response to the reactivated event. And so it's your immune system coming in, making that crusty lesion.
Yeah.
That's a good, healthy response, but it's overblown.
I see.
Normally when it's going on, it's below that level, so you don't even see that it's happening.
Oh, so it's not the strain. I'm always like, ooh. It's
There
like
could be some strain effects, but it's probably more the host genetic background.
I see.
Why the lip? Why there? Is there any reason for that?
Well, so I guess I don't know how far you want to take this conversation, but you have to think about type 1 versus type 2,
Yes,
which are
okay.
really the same virus. They're just different serotypes, even though they've been given different names. And so it's not necessarily the lip, but it has to be somewhere where it's able to gain access for replication. So mucosal epithelia is typical, and the lip just happens to be favorable for type 1.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. And they never tell you that when you go away to college. Don't share a drink or something with somebody who has.
Yeah.
You hear cold sore, you think, oh, it's something maybe inside the lip or something. But then
they shed, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it sheds. And how long do they stay alive, if you will? These viruses, they just sit on a Coke can and they're alive for a while, or
right? Not very long, because these viruses have a membrane envelope surrounding them. And anytime you have that lipid there, that makes them a little bit easier to fall apart. And so they're not designed really to hang out on a table for a long time. They really want intimate contact. So you need to kiss somebody pretty much.
All right.
I see.
And so I guess lastly, so you're able to study how these viruses can infect or get in and move around in neurons and things. Then after that, what's next? How do you prevent it? How do you stop it? How do you? Is it more of a diagnostic? So,
there's a lot of really interesting things that you can do with this knowledge. And one of the things that we have just recently been pushing very hard is the fact that now that we understand in the past year some of the effector mechanisms the virus uses to travel down the nerve fiber, which a lot of viruses can't even do. So there's something novel about these viruses that can do that. We've been able to just tinker it with it gently so that we make it lose that specific ability to travel long distance in an axon. And now we have viruses that in an animal model will replicate out at the mouth or wherever, but it doesn't get into the nervous system anymore. It's no longer neuroinvasive. And so now your immune system can take it down very effectively and it can't hide.
I see.
Yeah, so once you have that, now you can develop a nice immune response. That gives you the ability to vaccinate an animal. So
actually, I just, before we end this, I was just wondering about some of the, because this seems like ripe for like $1 billion pill. So the treatments, like what is it? Is it Valtrex or?
Yeah, acyclovir is the base compound that's in most of this. Yeah.
Okay, and what does that do? It seems like it's not a cure-all, but maybe it shortens the.
It's a treatment, so it kills the cells that are actively producing the virus.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the problem is not all cells that harbor the viral genome reactivate at the same time, and so you'll never kill all the cells that harbor all the viruses. So you can't cure yourself with it, but you can definitely treat it, because if you're killing those cells, there's going to be less virus produced in an outbreak.
Virus load goes down.
Way down. Yep. And it's really good too when it gets to the brain. It's the only treatment they really have is you just go on high dose acyclovir to try to slow down the infection. But that person who will potentially recover is going to still have the virus now latently in their brain rather than in their peripheral nerves.
Right.
And the next reactivation event will be a second round encephalitis. So the prognosis is still terrible, but at least there is that treatment.
Great.
Well, he's Greg Smith. Go check him out. Go read up. It's very cool.
Yeah, he's got some exciting stuff in the works.
Yeah. So. Thank you very much.
Pleasure being here.
All right.